Appalachian Mountains are ancient, but something lives there, something watching from the fog. The locals whisper about creatures, half beast and half nightmare. As we step into the shadows of Appalachia, what we find might never let you sleep again. Let's get into it.
In order to tell you of all the hauntings and paranormal things in Appalachia, I brought you out here with me. Bigfoot, Dogman, the Pope Lake Monster, you name it, it's out here. Appalachia might not seem that scary or intimidating on a day like today. That can all change in a matter of seconds. One of the most infamous creatures, paranormal entities in existence is the mimic. The mimic isn't just spotted in Appalachia, but it is known to be the home. But what is it? You've heard the stories. Why don't you whistle in Appalachia? Why don't you answer if something calls your name? That's because of the mimic. Demonic entity, then it's just one of the many names and forms that it takes. It will call out to you and maybe a relative or a friend, but it's not. Some people even report hearing the mimic in their homes, but when you're out in a place like this, that's when you really need to be worried. Away from civilization and sometimes miles to the nearest person. Truth is, I don't know, and to be honest, I really don't want to know. Environment like this, don't whistle. Beautiful and peaceful right now. You can hear the frogs and birds. In an hour or less, this place will morph into something totally different.
So right now, this is the view from my bedroom window. You can see the mountains behind, woods, 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 woods for miles. So seeing or hearing creepy things around my house is not at all unusual. So one night, I've been hearing some things around, and someone had left the basement door open, and the basement door leads directly into these woods. And I was hearing something down in the basement. So I went to the top of the stairs and I yelled down because I thought maybe my now ex-husband was down there doing something. So it was dark down there and I yelled down, "Is that you?" And he said, "Yeah, come on down." Plain as day. So I started walking down there and I was like, why is he sitting in the pitch black basement? Something just didn't set right with me. So I stopped and my daughter come behind me on the top of the stairs and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm seeing what your dad's doing down here." And she said, "He's been gone for an hour. He's not even here." So I stopped in my tracks and went back up the stairs and I looked out in the driveway. Sure enough, his car was gone. He was not there. It was definitely his voice. It was his voice 20 feet from me. It was his voice like, "I'm talking to you." So who was down there? What was down there? I don't know. But it came from the woods, whatever it was.
Here. In here. Come here. Hey, come here. Come here. When I talk to you. Come here.
Gabe, it's your mom. You should come out. You've been there for so long. Gabe, come out. Gabe, it's your mother. You should come out.
Then what's your name then?
Whatever you do, don't whistle in the Appalachian Mountains. One hiker did, and something whistled back. This is a true story, and it's still unsolved. In 2019, a solo hiker named Travis was trekking part of the Appalachian Trail in North Carolina. He was experienced, smart, and well prepared. He liked going off the main trail at times to find remote spots to camp in solitude. But this time, something wasn't right. He had set up camp about a mile off a lesser-known path. It was quiet. Too quiet. He mentioned later that he didn't hear any animals. No owls, no bugs. Just this strange stillness that made his skin crawl. That night, after eating and settling into his tent, he said he felt an overwhelming urge to whistle. He didn't know why. He wasn't trying to call anyone. He was just sitting alone in the dark. So he whistled a short little tune, just for fun. About 10 seconds later, something whistled the same exact tune back to him. Now, Travis assumed it had to be another hiker nearby. Maybe someone messing with him. So he called out, "Hey, who's there?" Silence. He whistled again. And again, the same tune was whistled back. Identical. Same pitch, same rhythm. He stepped out of his tent with a flashlight, expecting to see a person in the trees. But there was no one. He shouted again, and again nothing. That's when the whistling started again. But this time, it moved. First it came from the left, then the right, then behind him. As if something was circling his camp, mimicking him. He grabbed his gear, didn't even bother packing up his tent, and bolted to the main trail. He ran nonstop for over an hour until he made it to a ranger station. When he told the ranger what happened, the man just looked at him and said, "You're lucky you left. People go missing out there." Later, Travis shared his story online, and dozens of others commented on it, sharing similar experiences. Whistling in the woods, hearing footsteps with no one there, and even voices calling their names in their own voice. Local Appalachian folklore warns about mimics or entities that can imitate human sounds to lure people deeper into the woods. Some believe it's supernatural. Others think it's just echo tricks or animals. But here's the part no one can explain. When Travis went back to get his gear the next day, with 2 rangers, his tent was shredded. Not just torn, but ripped apart like something had claws. To this day, he doesn't go off trail anymore. And he warns anyone hiking the Appalachians, don't whistle, don't respond, don't follow voices, and if something whistles back, run.
The dog's out and this shit's happening again. Dude, what? Huh. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Sean, the father, hears disturbing howling noises out in the woods.
Listen to that. What? I don't know. Dude, why do you think I brought him in the house and run out here?
He tells his family to go inside and immediately investigates the noises heard deep in the woods.
Listen to that. Dude, get him in the house. Get him in the house.
Well, whatever that noise is, undoubtedly, they are not alone, and Sean, curious about who made that noise, decides to go out and explore with his dogs. After a few minutes or hours of exploring, he finds what appears to be a deep, dark cave.
I think we're dealing with something more than what we thought. That gives me chills listening to that.
He's filming his regular vlog until the same howling voice appears again, and louder than before.
Life's about spreading love. So tag 3 people that will do. I know I'm not going crazy. Again. Alright, that was clear.
And after that, he even set up cameras to catch the thing, but his camera disappeared. Sean also got up one night to hear dogs everywhere in the neighborhood barking at what seemed to be the noises the creature made.
This is crazy, and I don't know how to explain this. I really don't even want to do this. So I left a camera sitting here just to see if I can catch anything. And this was in place of it. This is some Blair Witch stuff right here. What the hell? Right there. I put those in the ground to kind of prop the camera up because I forgot my tripod. And now the camera's gone. And it stinks right here bad.
One of the most famous creatures of Appalachia is the Mothman. Now, in 1966, in a little town full of only a couple thousand people called Point Pleasant, the first sighting of the Mothman occurred. The first sighting was actually about 80 miles from Point Pleasant, but still the legend centers in Point Pleasant. Now, there were some grave diggers at a cemetery, and they claimed to see a man with wings lift up and fly from a tree over their heads. Now, only 3 days later, about only 5 miles from Point Pleasant at this point, there were two young couples driving past an old World War II TNT plant. They saw a large flying man with 10-foot wings. They also said that his eyes glowed red. They tried to flee this creature, driving upwards of 100 miles an hour, but this creature kept up with them and followed them all the way back to Point Pleasant. They were obviously so creeped out that they went straight to the police, which is when this creature got named the Mothman, and the press quickly picked it up and it became a thing. Over the following week, there were at least 8 more sightings, one of those sightings coming from 2 volunteer firefighters claiming to see a very large bird with large red eyes. Over the following year, the sightings of the Mothman continued, as well as reported UFO sightings and sightings of men in full black suits, men in black if you will. But most disturbing was the incident that happened about 10 days before Christmas in 1967. The silver bridge that connected Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, I don't know how to say it, Ohio. It was full of traffic because it was rush hour. It actually collapsed, killing 46 people. Some claim to have seen the Mothman shortly before this happened. And at this point, they considered the Mothman a harbinger of doom, or like a warning. And while obviously in a situation like this, there's a lot of skeptics and a lot of people who don't believe in the Mothman. They think maybe it was some specific type of crane or something like that. But the amount of sightings is what really convinced people that this could be a real thing, a real creature, and that this many people couldn't be claiming to see the same thing if there wasn't something going on.
This happened to them when they were about 16 years old in 2010. They said it was just a regular day like any other, and around evening time after dinner, their mom asked them to drive their brother to a friend's house. It was about 10 minutes away. So they agreed, drove him there, and then headed straight back home. Now, they say, mind you, this is a road that they have driven down for years and years, many, many times, and nothing strange has ever happened like this. So they're on a straightaway, and they're about to go down a steep hill, and then they see it. She describes it as a creature with pale, ashy gray skin, long limbs, 7 or 8 feet tall with red glowing eyes. Why? They are absolutely terrified, and they pass by and then slow down on their brakes and check in the rearview mirror to see if it's still there, just to make sure their eyes aren't playing tricks on them. And yeah, it's still standing there. Now here's the interesting thing about this. They said that you could see through it. They said it looked the same going towards it and then looking back at it through the rearview mirror. Some stories I hear, it's like 1 second it's there and then the next it's gone. It's like, is this thing fading in and out of existence? Is it from an alternate timeline? They mentioned that they've discovered that people often refer to creatures described like this as either wendigos or skinwalkers. I'm telling you, there have been so many people describing such a similar creature, it's unbelievable.
This is the story of what my mom and her siblings have called this thing, whatever it was, Jim Booger. So this is the story of Jim Booger. My mom and her siblings, they were raised up a holler their whole life, and I was raised up the same holler. Most of my mom's family lived up that holler then, and they still do. And I was always creeped out hearing the story when my mom would tell me this, but you know, I kind of thought she was just saying that because if me and my cousins were playing outside and it was near dark and they wanted us to come in, they'd be like, well, y'all better come in or Jim Booger's going to get you. And we were all like, oh, they're just saying that because they're trying to scare us and stuff. Well, we believed that until it happened to us. So when my mom and her siblings were growing up this holler, if you don't know what a holler is, it is pretty much just a road, and on both sides there's houses, but if you walk out your back door, it's nothing but woods and hills. So you're surrounded by hills, mountains, whatever you want to call them. And it first started on the property that my mom and her siblings were raised on, because there was like some land behind there. There's a double wide that sits there now, but back then there wasn't. So it was kind of like an open spot, and there were some woods, and my mom and her siblings, they would always play out there. And they said that one day they just had sticks and rocks thrown at them from the woods. They couldn't see anybody. This always happened in the summertime when the trees were bloomed and you couldn't really see, and it was always near dark when this happened, so they couldn't see. And so they would be playing, and they would always notice this, and at first it just started out being at that one spot. Well, as they would move up the holler, because you know, most of my mom's family live there up the holler, and they still do, they would go up to other people's, you know, houses and stuff up the holler. And they said that, you know, at first everything was good, and then they started feeling like somebody was watching them. They heard something walking around in the woods when they would play, and eventually the sticks and rocks started getting thrown at them at other places up the holler. And so there was one evening in the summer, it's getting dark, me and my cousins are outside, and we're playing, and all of a sudden we feel like we're being watched, and we're like, well, what the heck? And so we just kept on playing, like we all felt it, and we just kept on playing, and then all of a sudden, from the woods, sticks and rocks started being thrown at us. Don't know what it was, but we all went running inside. It happened a few times after that, but let's just say from that point on, when it started getting dark, we went inside. And I'm aware that this probably sounds stupid or like it's made up, because I've had comments, you know, that are saying that, but I promise you, my mom, like, even when she talks about it to this day, and her siblings that are still alive, they get cold chills talking about it, and I experienced it myself, so, you know, this is no joke.
Have you not seen that rake they caught on video at Cliffview? No way I'm going out at night in these woods. So naturally, I had to know what she was talking about, so I asked her to send me these videos, and she did. So here they are.
I live in West Virginia. Here are a few of the strange experiences I've had while living here. Number one is not a deer. Not a deer are what many people would think are deer that look like they're sick or just a little bit off, or maybe diseased in some way. It's very common for people to see a deer and think that it is afflicted with one of the many different variety of diseases. But when you see a deer that stares and it doesn't look at you quite right, and it looks like it is a little bit angry and it wants to maintain eye contact with you, that's when you see a not a deer. That's when it's time to go. Number two is random things saying your name, etc. So anyone who's ever watched a creepypasta knows that this has been going around the internet for a long time. However, whether it's because your anxiety's peaked a little bit or you're just hearing things, it's very common to think that you hear your name or something that you are used to hearing while you are out in the woods or in a wooded area by yourself. The third thing that you experience the most frequently in West Virginia is the unknown. We have, I believe, 2 national forests. Both of them have areas that have never been explored by humans, so yeah, living here is a little bit like living in the upside down.
Have you ever heard of something called the not deer? Because that's what we're talking about tonight. The not deer is a cryptid, we'll call it, because I don't know what else to call it. that supposedly lives mainly in Appalachia. So anywhere where the Appalachian Mountains are, that's its home. It's a creature that looks like a deer from far away, but the closer you get to it, the more things that you start to see wrong with it. That can be multiple antlers, eyes in the front of its head instead of the side of its head, limbs that bend the wrong way, and sometimes deer that walk on hind legs. Now, there are deer that get up on their hind legs so that they can grab something off of a tree to eat. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about deer that walk on their hind legs like a human does. Most of the people who have encountered this are driving on a road at night through a remote area, and they see a deer and they're like, oh, I need to slow down. There's a deer and it might jump out in front of me. And then the closer they get to it, the more things that they start to see are wrong with it. And everyone describes this feeling of dread, like they know something is wrong. The reason they're called not deer is because you know that's a deer, but it doesn't look like a deer. The best way I can describe it is if you are looking at something that you know has always looked like a certain thing, but there's just something off about it and you can't place it.
Well, she just woke me up again and said she heard it on the roof, and this time so did I, so I'm gonna get out there and have a look. Okay. Get the other side. Oh, damn. All right. Son of a bitch just went on the other side of the house. Oh. Oh. What the hell? Where'd it go? What is that?
So I was hiking on the Appalachian Trail with my fiance, and I turned around and looked off into the woods, and I saw what looked like a dog. Like, it looked like a big dog that looked kind of wolf-like, like maybe a husky or a German shepherd or something like that. So I turned to my fiance and I was like, hey, do you see that? And I pointed over to it, and he was like, it's just somebody's dog. But there was no person nearby, and the dog wasn't moving. It was just standing there staring at us. Well, we stood there for a bit looking at it, trying to figure out what it was, and then all of a sudden, it was a tree stump. Like, it didn't change into a tree stump, it just suddenly was a tree stump. It's hard to, like, explain. But the thing is, the tree stump didn't look like a dog. It is very hard to explain, but we saw a dog, and then suddenly the dog was a tree stump. And, like, it looked enough like a dog to where I didn't even say, hey, there's a dog over there. My fiance just was like, oh, yeah, that's somebody's dog. So, I don't know. But I've heard a lot of stories about the Appalachian Trail, and I thought that was kind of spooky. What do y'all think?
Apparently there's a new monster in town in Appalachia, and I have it on camera. And I'm referring to none other than the Appalachian Lougawoo. Yeah, Lougawoo. This may sound a little familiar because in the Caribbean and even parts of the South around Louisiana, the Rougarou, these entities are almost one and the same. Often like a human, as you'll see in this picture in a moment, but these things can turn into something else. More often than not, it's more of a werewolf or dogman type creature. And in this picture, you can see, at a glance, it looks like a man, but if you look closer, it's certainly not. At least not entirely. If you look at the eyes, they appear to be glowing, and there appears to be something off with the body, patches of hair or something. I'm not sure what's going on. And there is another one of these creatures in the background, as you can tell. You can't make out as much detail, but nonetheless, I wouldn't want to run up on this guy after dark.
Have you ever heard of the raven mocker of the Appalachian Mountains? If not, I've got new nightmare fuel for you. Raven mockers hunt at night, and it is said that when someone is sick or dying, they come to take their life. They fly through the air in a fiery shape, appearing like a shooting star or a fireball. And their passing overhead makes a great whoosh sound, like a strong wind, but without the wind. As it flies, it will make the cry of a raven, but not the normal raven cry, but more the cry the raven makes when it's diving, and not like a crow either. Crows and ravens are different. If you hear the raven mocker's cry or spot one flying overhead, then it is a certainty that someone is about to die. When the raven mocker hunts, it makes itself invisible to most people. Only powerful medicine men or those gifted with ghost eyes, which is different colored eyes, are able to still see them in that form. And because they go invisible, raven mockers can approach their victims even with others in the room, where it is said they will steal the victim's heart from their body while leaving no mark on the skin. And so the victim will often be tossing or turning or crying out, but those sitting in the room with them just think it's because they are sick or dying. Really, it is because a raven mocker is ripping their heart from their body. They then consume the victim's heart and steal the time that the dying would have had left. So for each year that they would have lived, the raven mocker adds one to their own life. That is why it was so important for a medicine man to always be present with the sick or dying, so that their hearts could not be stolen, because a raven mocker has no interest in a dead heart. It needs the time. The raven mockers fear the medicine men and the ghost eye, because if one is spotted, it knows it will die in 7 days if it cannot hunt. And if spotted, it becomes scared to hunt, because many medicine men were also trained to hunt and kill the raven mockers and have specific rituals to do so. So they will avoid them at all costs. No one knows where the raven mockers came from. Some say they fell from the heavens like a falling star at the beginning of time. Their lives are as long as the years they have stolen. So there are some that are literally as old as time. They live in deeply wooded, hard to reach areas and have been known to live in the Appalachian Mountains since forever. They tend to make their individual nests in heavy overgrowth and usually set up in the trees, which makes it nearly impossible to track one to its lair, as they typically will fly in pretty close and then hop from tree to tree to get to their nest so that no one can follow it home. Raven mockers are considered shapeshifters because they are invisible when they hunt and appear as fireballs when they fly. But otherwise, their shapeshifting ability is limited. They either appear in human form and usually look old and withered because, well, they are old, or they are in the form of an abnormally large raven. But while this is usually the way they are illustrated now as some type of human-sized raven, the older stories indicate that they actually appear as a literally just abnormally large raven. Like you're minding your own business and there's a big old raven staring at you in a tree, well, that could be a raven mocker. But despite this limitation to their shape-shifting ability, raven mockers are chief among cryptids, feared by all the other monsters and witches and evil spirits. And none will approach if a raven mocker is near, and will even flee an area if the cry of a raven mocker is heard. I guess they don't want the rest of their lives stolen either. Raven mockers are considered the enemy of man, and the Cherokee have stories of doing battle with them for centuries. But the raven mockers were always here, and as long as there is mankind, there will be raven mockers who want to steal the most precious thing we have: time. So the next time you're hanging out in the Appalachian Mountains and you see a fireball go by or hear the cry of a raven, watch out. It could be a raven mocker looking for a heart to steal.
When you're in the Appalachian Mountains, don't look into the trees. Don't follow the sounds. In those woods, nightmares breathe and legends walk. Because remember, everything in those woods that watches you doesn't want to be found. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, like, comment, share. I would really appreciate it. It's free and it would help the channel out tremendously. And until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.